right, it's time for another NFL mock draft. I haven't done a lot of specific preparation for this one because, quite frankly, no one really knows who's going number 1, 2, 3, 4, or basically anywhere at this point. There's been some ideas thrown around as to who's going where, but quite frankly, nobody really knows for sure where anybody is going. It is an absolute free-for-all this year, and I love it. I love it when drafts are completely unpredictable, and I cannot wait to see how the actual draft goes. But I wanted to get one last mock draft out there for you guys before the draft happens. By the time you see this, it is going to be on Friday, so the first round of the draft will have already happened, and possibly also the second round of the draft, and maybe even third round of the draft will have already happened, because I'm not exactly sure what time the day 2 of the draft starts, but nevertheless, we will kind of just get to see how this mock draft holds up. Spoiler, it's gonna not. It's gonna not hold up at all. If it does, I would be shocked. Especially because I'm not going to do any trades for this one. I'm just going to do 2 rounds of a mock draft, and that is going to be it. I'm not going to make any trades because if I did make trades and I did have to explain all of that, this video would be 2.5 hours long. It'd be crazy. So I am just going to kind of go straight up and see how it goes. Like I said, I haven't done any crazy preparation for this one. I haven't, gone over who I'm going to pick when before this video is made or anything. I'm just going to kind of see what happens. I'm going to go with my gut. And we're going to kind of just see how it goes from there. And I'm really excited about it, and I hope you guys are too. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. And also follow me on Twitter at Lopes Goes Last and Facebook at Lopes Goes Last Podcast. But let's get right into it. So, one thing that I have read over the last couple of days is that Travon Walker is the favorite right now to go number 1 overall, which, I mean, what a turnaround. I've factored him to be, a late first-round pick, maybe early second-round pick. At the beginning of this process, and now he may go number 1 overall. And, we've gone Aiden Hutchinson pretty much all the time at number 1. We've gone Kayvon Thibodeau a couple of times, even Evan Neal a couple of times. But I am going to mix it up. Let's go Travon Walker. Let's play it up. Let's see if he actually does go number 1 overall here for the Jaguars. Now, last mock draft, I talked about how if the Lions were able to draft Aiden Hutchinson, they probably wouldn't trade back. And obviously, in this draft, we're not doing trades anyway, but that's exactly how the board falls for them. We're going to go Aiden Hutchinson at number 2. Nice and easy. I don't really think you need any explanation. He's possibly the best player in the draft, so certainly I think that he's somebody that's going to be great for Detroit should he go there. Houston at number 3. This is a lot more difficult because there are certainly plenty of guys on the board that they could go. They could go Kayvon Thibodeau, who has kind of strangely shot right back up draft boards to where people are even thinking he might go number 1 overall again, which, I'm not really sure how that kind of stuff happens. They could go Sauce Gardner. Certainly, they think that DB is their number 1 need right now. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that. I think that they have other pressing needs, although certainly cornerback is a need for them. They could go Evan Neal here. They could go Ike Ekwonu. They could go certainly a few places. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go Ike Ekwonu here. I think that, Laramie Tunsil doesn't have that much time left in Houston. I don't think he's going to stick around for much longer. And even if he does, you can put Ike, you can put him at guard, you can put him at tackle, you can put him anywhere on that line. I think he's the best offensive player in the draft, and I think he'll go number 3 overall. New York Jets, probably very bummed that they are not getting Ike Ekwonu here at number 4. But they certainly have some options here, right? They certainly could go wide receiver. They could go Garrett Wilson. They could go tackle. They could go Evan Neal. Obviously, Kayvon Thibodeau still here. Jermaine Johnson is here, who's shot up draft boards. So there's certainly plenty of options here for the Jets. And for me, I think that it just makes the most sense for them to go Sauce Gardner here. Now, what I have read is that they feel like they can get some more DBs and some more edge rushers later in the draft, which is a fair assumption. This is a very deep draft for both of those positions. And so it is very plausible that they take an offensive lineman here, although I'm not sure if that is the best idea because you do still pick at 10 and you can still get a very quality offensive lineman at that point. So I am going to go Kayvon Thibodeau here at 4. I think that, He is the best player available right now. I love Sauce Gardner, but I like Kayvon Thibodeau more, and I think that he'll really fit well in New York. Speaking of New York, the New York Giants up at 5. They could go in a few different directions, but what I have seen is Charles Cross is really high on their board right now, but Evan Neal is also still here. I certainly could see them go in a lot of different directions here, but for me, I think it just makes the most sense at this point in the draft. I think you should just go Evan Neal here at 5. You know, it's possible you could go Sauce Gardner. You maybe could even go Kyle Hamilton. I'm not sure I'd take him that high at this point. You could even go Jermaine Johnson at 5. It makes sense. They need pass rushers, but I think you could get Johnson at 7. So I would go Evan Neal here. I think he's just a little bit better of a prospect than Charles Cross at this point, so I'm going to go Evan Neal at 5. Panthers, do they take a quarterback here? It's very, very possible. They certainly could take a quarterback. They're definitely not going to take corner. I can tell you that for free. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm going to laugh at myself for saying this. But if Carolina takes another corner after, all the corners that they have, it's going to be a free-for-all. But nonetheless, I do think that Charles Cross is the way to go here. Although, we've done Charles Cross to the Panthers a couple of times. So, maybe we mix it up, and maybe they take a chance on Malik Willis at 6. I'm not sure if I would love this pick in real life if it were to happen, but everybody, at some point in the draft, somebody's going to reach for a quarterback, and I'm picking the Panthers to do that at 6. Could it happen? Absolutely. Will it happen? Probably not. But if it does happen, that's going to be one heck of a call by me. So, Giants, again, back here at 7. And like I said, you could certainly get Jermaine Johnson at 7. And I think that's what they're going to do here. Jermaine Johnson at number 7 for the Giants. Nice and easy. And that leaves the Falcons. And the Falcons, I think that they're probably pretty bummed at this point right now because their biggest position was edge, and the top 4 are off the board. And in terms of edge prospects, you don't really have a ton at this point. So, you got Ojabo, who would have been up there had he stayed healthy, and then you got Karlaftis and Mafe, who at this point might not even go in the first round. So, certainly you cannot reach that far for an edge player here. So, what do you do if you're Atlanta? I think at this point, if this is how the board falls, I think you probably trade back, get some more picks, but obviously for this video, we're not going to do that. So, what I'm going to do instead is I am going to get them a wide receiver because they desperately just need weapons. And usually I would say in this spot, the Falcons roster is not good. It just isn't, and I don't think anybody is going to tell you that it is. Even the Falcons themselves are probably not going to tell you that their roster is all that good. And I think drafting a wide receiver in the first round is for, teams that are just missing that one piece, like the Bengals that were missing just that one piece on offense that they needed in Jamar Chase that unlocked their potential. But I think at this point, obviously for this video, I am going to go Garrett Wilson. I think he has separated himself to be the best wide receiver in this draft, or at least the one that's going to be drafted the highest. It could be Drake London, certainly depending on the team and depending on how the board falls. But I think that Garrett Wilson is going to go to the Falcons. I think that he fits that team just a little bit better than Drake London, although certainly they could use a big body wide receiver that they don't have. But I think Kyle Pitts can really be that for you, even though he's not necessarily a wide receiver. He's more of a tight end. But nonetheless, I'm going to go Garrett Wilson here. Seattle, do they take a quarterback here? It's certainly possible, but I don't think I am going to have them take a quarterback here. They do still have Drew Lock. I know, he's not great. But they do still have a quarterback at this point, and I think the biggest need for them is offensive line, and Charles Cross being here, I don't think I'm going to hesitate. I'm going to take Charles Cross at number 9. Now, that really stinks for the Jets. It certainly stinks for the Jets at that point, but what's great is that you got the top corner in the draft still available just because of the way the board fell, and instead of picking him at number 4, you're going to be able to get him at number 10. Sauce Gardner, if the Jets can wait and to get him at number 10, that will be a huge steal for them. He really helps solidify that secondary. He's a fantastic corner, very athletic, great in press, great athlete, ideal size, just an absolute monster of a player is Sauce Gardner, and it's going to be tough. Kayvon Thibodeau and Sauce Gardner, you might get the 2 best players in the draft if you are the Jets here in the first round. Great first round for the Jets. The Commanders, who are under a lot of scrutiny right now, but certainly the show must go on for them. Now, I think that there are a lot of places that you can go. You could go Drake London. He's the best wide receiver available, at least in my mind, right now. Certainly, Jameson Williams would have been up there had it not been because of injury. You've got Derek Stingley here, and certainly corner is a huge need for you. You could certainly go interior offensive lineman if you wanted to reach just a little bit for Zion Johnson. I think you could certainly take him here, and it wouldn't really be that big of a deal. He is a great player, but I think Zion Johnson is best fit for, later in the draft, later in the first round. So for me, I think that you're going to want to take a guy that's going to be a quarterback of your defense, a guy that's going to be able to do a lot of things for you, and is just going to be, a guy that's just a Swiss Army knife back there, and I think Kyle Hamilton is that guy for you. Certainly Kyle Hamilton has fallen down draft boards a little bit. He's not necessarily the best free-roaming safety in the world. He definitely plays best in the box, but I think that the Commanders' defense can really be solidified, although I'm sure Commanders fans really, really want to go offense. I think if Kyle Hamilton is there at number 11, it's going to be tough for the Commanders not to take it. And I know that the Vikings really, really must be ticked that Kyle Hamilton is gone at this point at number 11, although certainly if you really wanted a player in real life, you could certainly trade up, certainly from 12 to 11, just throw in a couple of extra late round picks, and you're probably going to get that done. But I think that at this point, you got to go corner here if you are the Vikings. You certainly could go Jordan Davis. You certainly could go Devontae Wyatt at this point, and it would make a lot of sense to me. But I am going to go Derek Stingley here at number 12. They just need help in that secondary. It seems like Minnesota always needs help in the secondary, but I think this year, Derek Stingley is going to finally be that guy that's going to solidify it for the Vikings. Houston, back up at number 13. So I think at this point, you could really go anywhere. You got two great wide receivers. You got interior offensive line. You've got interior defensive line that's ready to go. But I think Trent McDuffie at this point is your best bet. You certainly need to figure out your defense. You need a guy that's going to be locked down out there. And I think Trent McDuffie is going to go higher than people expect. I know most people are picking him to go to the Eagles in one of their 2 picks, but I don't think he's going to be available until then. Whether or not the Texans are the ones that draft him, I think he's going to go, before number 15, which is what I obviously have him doing here. The Ravens, interesting here that they have corner as their number 1 need. I don't necessarily agree with that. I definitely think that their interior defensive line is their biggest need right now, and because of that, it is really tough because, Jordan Davis, right? It's always going to be a preference between Jordan Davis or Devontae Wyatt. They're 2 completely different players. Devontae Wyatt is a guy that is going to be able to rush the passer from the interior and really put pressure on you, and he's going to be decent in the run game. Jordan Davis is a guy who's a pure, just a purebred athlete, nose tackle, run stuffer that has not shown that he's a great pass rusher. Certainly can develop into that, but as of right now, he does not have that pass rush capability. So what do you need? Which do you think that you need if you are Baltimore? Now, they did just re-sign Calais Campbell, who obviously is getting up there in age. I think at this point, he's not going to be your pass rusher. He's probably just going to be, your first down, maybe second down defensive lineman at this point in his career. So I think that your pure nose tackle is probably taken care of. So at this point, I am going to go Devontae Wyatt. I think he just fits what the Ravens need a little bit more than Jordan Davis. Could they certainly go Jordan Davis and bank on his potential? Absolutely, could certainly see that. But I think right now, just pure athlete to pure athlete, pure scheme fit to scheme fit, I am going to go Devontae Wyatt here. Eagles at number 15. Do they go another first-round wide receiver? It certainly seems to look that way here, and I do feel bad for Eagles fans if that were to be the case, because certainly right now it seems like that's probably going to be where the Eagles go here. You can't take edge. I don't think there's any edge rushers right now that make sense at this point in the draft, so I am going to go with a wide receiver in Drake London. I think that, certainly it's not the biggest need for the Eagles, but the way the board has fallen right now, I think Drake London makes the most sense. And now that brings to the Saints. So the Saints, I am going to go, I don't even think that this is much of a choice here, you got to go Chris Olave if he's available at this point. These first-round wide receivers are flying off the board. And I know that in a lot of mock drafts, the wide receivers are going later. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the wide receivers are going to fly off the board early on. So whether these guys here, whether it's the Packers, whether it's the Chiefs, whether it's the Patriots, whether it's the Bucks, whether it's the Titans, it doesn't matter. Somebody's going to have to trade up into the top 20 to get some of these wide receivers because, a lot of these guys are just going to go early. I just think that that's how the board's going to go. Wide receiver skill positions are usually the guys that fly off the board earlier than expected. Your quarterbacks, your wide receivers, your edge rushers. Those are the guys that, obviously the edge rushers aren't skill positions, but they're the guys that usually go off the board a little bit quicker here than what you would expect. Chargers, they are one of the few teams right now that are in a fantastic spot. Your two biggest needs right now at 17 are tackle and interior defensive line, and you've got Jordan Davis, who would really, really fit your team, and Trevor Penning, who would really, really help out your young quarterback. I love Trevor Penning. I've seen a lot of people that don't like Trevor Penning, and I do understand why. He is a very abrasive athlete. He is just a grinder. He's just that kind of guy that really gets in your head and gets under your skin if you're his opponent. That's just the kind of guy he is. The kind of player he is, certainly, at least. You really have your choice here, and which one do you think makes the most sense for you right now? And I think because the Chargers are going all in, and they did so much work on the defense in the offseason to improve. I think they should go offensive tackle if they have the choice between Davis and Penning, so I am going to go Penning here. You got to protect your young quarterback. You got to protect his blind side, and I think Trevor Penning has the chance to be the best offensive lineman in the draft, or at least the best pure tackle in the draft by the end of it. Back to the Eagles at 18. Certainly, defensive back is a huge need, but if you look at the board, I'm not sure Andrew Booth is going to go at this point. Kyer Elam, I think that this isn't a good spot for him either. So, what do you do if you are the Eagles? It's a great question. I'm not really sure at this point. This is definitely a trading situation, but I am going to go with Devin Lloyd here at 18. I think he really is going to help their defense. Linebacker is not the biggest need in the world for them, but I think that at this point, Devin Lloyd makes the most sense. He can do everything at linebacker. He's fast. He is just a special athlete. He can cover tight ends. He can stop the run. I think he'll really, really help, and he's going to be a fan favorite in Philly. Back to the Saints here. So obviously they already went Chris Olave. So now at this point, I think that you have to address quarterback. Maybe you're not going to select a quarterback here, but I think that you at least have to think about it. Looking at the rest of the board, I'm not really sure what you do if you are the Saints here. You could certainly go Zion Johnson here, although I think tackle is more of a need than your interior. You could go Kenyon Green, but again, the tackle versus the interior thing. I'm not really sure where you go here if you are the Saints. I definitely think this is a spot where you can trade down, especially, teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Packers are going to want to trade up to get a Jameson Williams. But right now, I think what I'm going to do is, at this point in the draft, you probably just need to go best player available here, and that is Jordan Davis. He's an absolute freak athlete. Defensive line is something that you could probably work on a little bit if you are the Saints. Their run defense was not all that great last year, and I think that they're probably banking on Jameis Winston. I can't believe I almost forgot his name. Jameis Winston, at least for this year. He really showed flashes of being great last year until he got injured. So I think that you're going to at least give him a shot for this upcoming year, and you might be able to take a quarterback next year in next year's draft. Speaking of quarterback, not even a question. Kenny Pickett here out of Pitt. It just makes the most sense if you are the Steelers. If Kenny Pickett falls to you at 20, that shouldn't be a no-brainer. Hometown kid coming to replace, arguably the greatest quarterback in the franchise history. If you are the Steelers, obviously you got Terry Bradshaw and Bobby Lane, but I think Ben Roethlisberger certainly is in that conversation. I think that Kenny Pickett is one of those guys that can really just handle that pressure, and I think he'd step right in and be your starter day one for Pittsburgh and put you right back in contention. Patriots, certainly you have a lot of options here. Jameson Williams is still on the board. Zion Johnson is still on the board. Certainly you have different wide receiver options. Traylon Burks, Andrew Booth is still here. But I think that if Zion Johnson is still available, you gotta help reassure that offensive line. Zion Johnson's going to go at 21. I think it's decent value for them as well. I could certainly see other guys going here. I could certainly see Dax Hill going here. That would definitely be a Patriots pick, but I think right now Zion Johnson is the way to go. Green Bay Packers, not even going to explain why. Jameson Williams falls to you at 22. You got to take it. Number 23, the Arizona Cardinals. I think this is a bit more of a toss-up if you are the Cardinals. I think that certainly Dax Hill would make a lot of sense, even though he is a safety. And, you don't necessarily need safety itself, but he could certainly play slot corner for you. But I think instead I am going to go Andrew Booth. I think, I've said he's going to go to Arizona a bunch of times in my mock drafts, and I think it just makes sense. The athlete to the team, I think it just makes sense to me. For whatever reason, I am going to go with Andrew Booth here at number 23. Cowboys, I think Dax Hill is a perfect fit for them at 24. You need to help re-solidify that defense that really let you down towards the end of the season. And Dax Hill, great player, can do a lot of things for you. He can play in the slot. He can play both safety spots. He can step in the box. He is a fantastic player, and I think that it would really, really do well for him at 24 to the Cowboys. Now, I don't know what in the world this is. I don't know why defensive back and wide receiver are your two biggest needs when you have Tre'Davious White and you have Stephon Diggs at wide receiver. I don't know why those are your two biggest needs. I think if anything, your interior defensive line and your offensive line are your two biggest needs. Excuse me. So I don't really understand what in the world they're doing here. However, I do agree that at this point in the draft, wide receiver is at least something that you've got to think about if you're the Bills. I think that certainly, you got some great wide receivers available, but at the end of the day, I think you do need to go with a fit, and Kenyon Green is still here. You've got to help re-solidify that offensive line, help that running game. You could certainly even go running back here. If you wanted to take a Breece Hall or a Kenneth Walker a little bit early, I think it makes sense for a team like the Bills, who truly probably feel like they are one, maybe two pieces away from winning a Super Bowl. I think it makes sense, but I am going to go Kenyon Green. Titans, at this point, they need a lot. They are a good team. They obviously were the 1 seed in the AFC last year, although they were bounced in the first round of the playoffs by the team that would eventually represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, in the Cincinnati Bengals. But certainly they are still a great team, although, what is your situation with A.J. Brown? Even past A.J. Brown, you don't really have that many weapons. So I think at this point in the first round, you've got to go Treylon Burks. You've got to make sure that you have some kind of backup plan if A.J. Brown holds out or if A.J. Brown gets traded. And even if he doesn't do either of those things, you just need more weapons on your offense. So Treylon Burks here at number 26. The Bucs now. I think that Linderbaum at this point makes some sense, certainly. There's certainly been reports that he might fall out of the first round, but I think at this point he just fits a need that really, really the Bucs need. I mean, he can play center, he can play guard, and you lost a Pro Bowl center and a Pro Bowl guard this year. Certainly, you also traded for Shaq Mason, which helps. But I think Linderbaum makes sense if he is available at 27. I appreciate the reports that he's going to fall out of the first round. I just don't see it. I think if he is available at 27, he just seems like a perfect Tampa Bay Buccaneer to me, especially with Tom Brady under center. He'll be able to learn from one of the greatest of all time. Definitely, at least in my mind, the greatest of all time, but certainly that's up for debate for all of you guys. And that brings me to number 28. Green Bay Packers, you could certainly double up on wide receiver here, but I don't think that makes much sense here at this point. Another thing that you need is offensive line, so let's see what you have here. Bernard Raymond, I don't think is an option for you, and there's not really a ton of great options there. Tyler Smith, he's gotten some first-round grades. I don't have him as a first-round grade, but I think it certainly is possible that he goes in the first round. So now you're kind of sitting there going, all right, what do you do? I think Boye Mafe makes the most sense here. I think he's got great upside. I think he's a fantastic athlete, and I think at number 28, you can certainly do worse than Boye Mafe if you are the Green Bay Packers. That brings us to the Kansas City Chiefs. Back-to-back picks here. Your wide receiver pool is a little bit thin, but I think you can get two great players here. Jahan Dotson, I'm going to go at 29, and Khair Elam at 30. Certainly fits both of your big needs. You lost your best corner in Charvarius Ward. You obviously lost your best wide receiver in Tyreek Hill. I think that these two guys really are going to help, solidify that and start that rebuild of that offense. Cincinnati Bengals here at number 31. Another, interesting, development here. What do you do if you are the Bengals? And I think that this is a spot where if you're the Bengals, I think that you should reach a little bit and go with Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State. I haven't had him in any of my first-round drafts, but he's been getting some first-round looks here, and I don't think, it wouldn't really surprise me all that much if he went at number 31 or even earlier. Honestly, I could see him going at number 23 to the Cardinals. I think that he makes a lot of sense for that scheme, but I am going to go with him here at number 31. You need some more help as a pass rusher, or at least on the line, I should say, if you are the Bengals. And I think Ebiketie, you could certainly do worse. You definitely could go George Karlaftis here, but I think Ebiketie has a little bit more upside and a little bit higher of a ceiling than Karlaftis, so I am going to go with him there. Now, Lions at 32. I think it's been pretty, it's been pretty obvious that I have gone with, a wide receiver here. But, I mean, quite frankly, most of your wide receivers are off the board here. So I think that it just makes the most sense to go with Desmond Ridder here out of Cincinnati. And certainly I think that it makes the most sense to go with him at 32 anyway if he's available because, there's all, obviously I've used the term, or I've used the reasoning of the Jaguars are not going to take a quarterback. And that's true, but that does not eliminate the possibility of a trade-up. Obviously, in this mock draft, we're not having any trade-ups, but certainly a team that maybe like the Seahawks that have 2 second-round picks back-to-back at 40 and 41, trade up to 33, and they steal Desmond Ridder from you. Now all of a sudden, you're really reaching for a quarterback. Sam Howell, Matt Corral's certainly available here. He could definitely go at a certain point, but I think that it just makes the most sense here. At number 32 for them to go Desmond Ridder. And yes, I do have Matt Corral falling out of the first round here. Do I think that's going to happen in real life? No, I don't think he's going to fall out of the first round, but that's just kind of how the board has gone at this point. Jaguars at 33. As I said, this is a 2-round mock draft, so here we go. And I think Lewis Cine out of Georgia makes the most sense here. They just need a guy that's going to really bookend that back end of their defense and really just going to be a guy that's going to step in day one and make an impact. And Lewis Cine had a fantastic combine. He had a great year at Georgia. Another one of those just great Georgia defenders that's going to be, a possible first-round pick, but he just misses out and is the first pick of the second round here. Now Detroit here. You could certainly go with a lot of different players here, but I think I am going to go with a guy that I actually had them drafting in my last mock draft. At pick 17, I'm going to go to Kobe Dean, who has fallen out of the first round here in this mock draft, which seemed crazy to me a week ago, but now obviously with new mock drafts coming out and new reports coming out, Kobe Dean is one of those guys that people think could fall out of the first round, and I don't think he's going to get much past the first couple of picks of the second round if he does fall out of the first round at all. But I think that if you can get him as your third pick in the draft, if you are the Lions, that would be great because he is a fantastic player. He's got great leadership skills. He can do absolutely everything on the field. And I think he would be a great fit in Dan Campbell's scheme and defense, as I said last week. Now, on to number 35. You have not addressed offensive line here, and I don't think you're going to here either. Tyler Smith is certainly an option, but I just don't think it makes the most sense. And who I do think makes the most sense here for the Jets is Quay Walker out of Georgia, another Georgia player. 3 straight Georgia players. That was not my intention, but Quay Walker is just a guy that's he's very fast, very athletic, had a great combine, and CJ Mosley's getting up there in age. Linebacker's not your biggest need, but Quay Walker is going to give you a lot of what CJ Mosley does. He's younger. He's a little bit quicker. CJ Mosley is that guy that's, going to be a veteran presence, is going to make some plays, but I think really helping rebuild that defense in New York for the Jets. I think Quay Walker is your guy. Giants back here at number 36. I think that wide receiver is definitely in play here. I think that edge is still in play, even though you already went there, and I think safety certainly is in play here as well. I'm sure that, a lot of Giants fans would love for me to go Matt Corral here, and I think you know what? I'm not going to do it. I would love to do it. I really would, but I just don't think it makes sense here. I don't think the Giants are going to take a quarterback here, even though I do think it is very tempting, and I think that they should. I'm going to go Kyler Gordon here out of Washington. Another guy that I think could go in the first round. And, all these guys could really go in the first round. I mean, there are so many possibilities this year. It's unbelievable. So this is definitely not going to be how the board shakes up. If it is, I would be just floored because I should have put money on it. But nonetheless, I think that Kyler Gordon is a great prospect for you in the second round if you are the Giants. Your first couple of picks, you didn't address corner, you went offensive line, and you went edge. And I think, going into the secondary here, I think it just makes sense. Houston back here at number 37, and I think at this point, George Karlaftis is still here. You got to go George Karlaftis. Certainly could go David Ojabo here, but I think that it just makes the most sense for them to go Karlaftis. He's got a first-round grade, at least for me. He's fallen out of the first round, and I think it just makes sense for them to go here at number 37. So, Jets back up here, and I just said that I might not go Tyler Smith, but I think at this point he is still available. You got to go Tyler Smith. He's a guy that definitely could go in the first round, and I'm going to say that about a lot of guys, but it is true. A lot of guys have him as a first-round grade. I personally do not. I think he's, mid to late second round to me, but I think a lot of teams are going to fall in love with him, and Tyler Smith still being available at 38, I think that it makes the most sense considering you do need offensive line for the Jets, and they are off to a fantastic start here. Obviously, Kayvon Thibodeau and Sauce Gardner, you got two great players there. Quay Walker at 35 might be a little bit of a reach, certainly, but I think that he is a great player, and then Tyler Smith at 38. You're really, filling a lot of needs here if you are the Jets. Now, the Chicago Bears, with their first pick of the draft here, they need a lot as well, and I think that David Ojabo makes the most sense here. They need somebody to replace Khalil Mack that they just traded, and I think David Ojabo, he probably would have been a top 10 pick had he not gotten injured, and I think that it makes a lot of sense for the Bears to take a chance on him at 39. They could try and wait until 48, but I think as a guy as talented as Ojabo, even though he's not going to play this year probably because of injury, I think that as a guy that talented starts slipping, you're going to be risking more teams, that really need pass rushers like the Patriots, like the Cowboys, like the Cardinals, like the Steelers, like the Eagles, trading up and jumping you, and then now you don't get him. So I think that it makes sense here for David Ojabo to go at 39. Now, Seattle. I think it's pretty clear where you have to go here. Matt Corral is still available at 40. You got to go Matt Corral. He's going to be your quarterback of the future. Unbelievable that he will have fallen to 40. I don't think it's going to happen in real life, but that's just kind of how my board shook up. Matt Corral at 40 to the Seahawks. And you got back-to-back picks here if you are the Seahawks. So, what do you do here? The Seahawks are kind of that team that takes chances on players that might not necessarily be, your biggest need, and maybe not even, your, the best player available at that position at the time. And I think that at this point, Logan Hall out of Houston makes sense. I have heard that Logan Hall might go in the first round, even though he is so far down the board here for this website. I think Logan Hall certainly has a chance to go earlier than this, but I think that, if he is available at 41, you could certainly do worse. Indianapolis, I think that they would have loved Logan Hall. I think he would have really fit their team, but instead, what do you do if you are the Colts? You can't go tackle. You just can't. So I think that, the best thing that you could do right now is I think Sky Moore makes the most sense for them. They need some more weapons on that offense. Sam Howell certainly is a possibility here if you are the Colts, but I think that you're going to trust Matt Ryan. You're probably going to have him for at least 1 or 2 years, and you can go quarterback maybe next year or the year after. So Sky Moore makes sense. He's a great wide receiver, fantastic out of Western Michigan, and I think that he'll certainly do well in Indianapolis, and I think that he fits their scheme a lot. He gives them something that they don't have right now. Falcons at number 43. Again, another team that needs a lot. They're going to need to draft a quarterback, and they have one available at Sam Howell. I'm not so sure if I would go him here because, let's take a look at the quarterbacks. You have Carson Strong, you have Sam Howell, and I know Carson Strong is ranked 130. I don't think he's going to go that late. I think he's going to go way earlier than 130. But I think that you might be able to take Sam Howell here. But I think you're going to trust Marcus Mariota for at least a year. And I think that, your roster is quite frankly so bad. You're going to be in the running for the number 1 pick next year. You're going to be able to get maybe a Bryce Young, maybe a CJ Stroud. So, you never know. So I don't think drafting a quarterback here makes the most sense for them. What I do know that they need is safety, and Jaquan Brisker is still here. So safety is the way to go here. Jaquan Brisker, I don't know a ton about him. He's, one of those safeties that's kind of like in that weird range where I know of him and I've seen him play, but I don't know a ton about him. I don't know how he best fits a scheme, but I certainly know that he is a fantastic player. I've watched him play. He's quick. He's fast. He can do a lot of things back there for you. So I think that Jaquan Brisker makes sense for the Falcons at 43. Now the Browns, making their first selection of the draft. Not a lot of great options, but I think Perrion Winfrey here makes the most sense. Perrion Winfrey, he might go a little bit later in the draft, but I think that, if you're the Browns, you just really have to solidify that interior defensive line, and I don't think Travis Jones necessarily fits what you need as well as Perrion Winfrey does. So Perrion Winfrey is your pick at number 44. Ravens now. They certainly need, a lot of defensive help. They could certainly go interior offensive line here, but I think that it would be a bit of a reach. Christian Harris is still here, even though linebacker's not your biggest need. Although I have seen a lot of people say that interior linebacker is, or inside linebacker, not interior linebacker, excuse me, is, one of your bigger needs if you are the Ravens. And I'm just not sure I agree with that. So what I am going to do here is I am actually going to scroll down just a little bit, and I'm going to go Roger McCreary out of Auburn. I think he's one of my favorite players in the draft, certainly. I think he had a fantastic year at Auburn. He's a great man corner, and I think that he has Raven written all over him, that physicality, that press-style defense. Putting him on the other side of Marlon Humphreys, excuse me. Marshawn Lattimore does not play for the Ravens. And putting him on the other side of Humphreys, I think it makes a lot of sense here. Now, the Vikings, I think that at this point you're going to have to reach. You're going to go Jalen Petrie. I think it certainly makes sense at 46 for them to go Petrie, but, I'm not so sure that he is going to go this high, but maybe. So I'm going to go with him here at 46. Now, Washington, I think that at this point, George Pickens is still available out of Georgia. He's, one of the most talented wide receivers in the draft. You need more offensive weapons. And George Pickens, barring injury, I think he would have been a first-round pick, certainly. He might have even been in contention for best wide receiver in the draft. That's how good he is when he is healthy. So George Pickens at 47. Bears now. You definitely need offensive linemen if you are the Bears. You got to protect Justin Fields. And Bernard Raymond out of Central Michigan is still here. I'm going to go him here. I think that him falling to the second round, he's certainly talented. He hasn't been playing football for that long. But if you can really get him and coach him up, I think that he makes a lot of sense. New Orleans here at 49. And I think, obviously with Raymond gone, I think you probably would have taken him if he was still available. But who is available is Sam Howell out of North Carolina. So Sam Howell, I think you're going to draft your quarterback in the future here, even though I'm not necessarily sure that you probably will, but somebody's got to draft him, and the Saints are sort of a quarterback-needy team. So Sam Howell at number 49. Now, Kansas City. What do you do here if you are Kansas City? You certainly could go in a lot of different directions, but I think that for me, you did go wide receiver already, and it's really tempting to take Christian Watson because he is still here. You could reach a little bit and go Daniel Falele if you feel like he could really help out in terms of your offensive line. DeMarvin Leal is here. But I think that what they're going to do is I think Kenneth Walker really fits that team. I don't think Kenneth Walker is the best running back in the draft, although he's certainly up there. But I think that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's good, but he's not fantastic. And I think that, getting another back in there that can help him, that can, kind of counteract him and do different things that he does. Kenneth Walker makes the most sense for me. And, for the Chiefs, they don't really need a ton of help. I mean, they have a great team every year. Even without Tyreek Hill, they're going to be great this year. That's just how it is. So I think that Kenneth Walker makes sense here at 50. Philadelphia Eagles picking again here, obviously. They've already had a couple of picks. And, defensive back is certainly a big need here. But I think that, at this point, you probably should, help that offensive line and then really get that interior here. And I think Jamari Sawyer out of Georgia is the way to go. Jamari Sawyer, I've seen him on tape. I think that he certainly could have a high second-round grade for me. So I think getting him here at 51 is a great value for the Eagles. Steelers now. Again, this seems to be, for some reason, I'm always tempted to go running back for the Steelers just because of the memes. But I think that instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Tariq Woolen. Small school guy. I don't know a ton about him, but certainly I've seen him go a lot in this range. So I think it makes a lot of sense here. Now, Packers at 53. Another team that could certainly use some offensive line help. Certainly could use some defensive line help. And I think DeMarvin Leal makes a lot of sense. He was one of those guys that, was really flying up draft boards, at the beginning of this process. And then he started really falling down as tape started to come out. Didn't have that great of a combine, although he certainly looked impressive at points. But I think DeMarvin Leal, I think he'll definitely go here in the second round. And I think he's a great fit out there in Green Bay. And now for the Patriots. You addressed offensive line, and I know. People are going to want me to go. They're going to want me to go Christian Watson. They're going to want me to go, John Mechie here. But I just can't do it because there's somebody that I have absolutely fallen in love with, and that is Chad Muma out of Wyoming. I think that he's a perfect Patriot. I think he really is. And if you can get him in the second round, I think that he is a perfect fit for your team. He is just a great leader. He's a great athlete. He can do absolutely anything you ask of him on the field. And I think that he just makes sense for the Patriots. He is the type of guy that Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are going to turn into a stud on defense. So watch out for Chad Muma if he does get drafted by the Patriots. Now, Arizona at 55 here. We're kind of winding down the draft here. And at this point, I think you've got to try and replace, your wide receiving core that, ended up departing in free agency. Christian Kirk, great wide receiver. And I think that you got to replace him. You're going to replace him with another Christian Watson out of North Dakota State. Certainly is one of the better athletes in the draft at the wide receiver position. He can do absolutely everything on the field. Play outside, play inside. I think he predicts to be a little bit more on the inside, at least to me. But we will see. And now back to the Cowboys at 56. You certainly need help as a pass rusher. So let's take a look at what is available. And I just don't love what's available here. I really don't. Maybe Cam Thomas at this point. I'm not the biggest fan of Josh Pascal. Sorry to all my Kentucky fans out there. But I'm just not the biggest fan of him. So, what do you do? And I think that, obviously, linebacker's not the biggest need here. I think interior defensive line is a position that you definitely need because you did lose your starting center. So I think Sean Ryan is going to be my pick here out of UCLA. Don't know a ton about him here, but I think that, if he is available, I think that it makes a lot of sense for them to go with Sean Ryan here. Certainly could go Dylan Parham here. I do know a little bit more about him than I do Ryan, but I'm going to go with Ryan just for this, just because honestly at this point, guys, this isn't what's going to happen. Like, this mock draft is going to be completely inaccurate. Christian Harris is going to be drafted in the first round, and, Matt Corral is going to be drafted at 11, and, Nakobe Dean's going to be drafted at 15, and then, Jordan Davis is going to fall to, 37. It's just going to be weird stuff. Obviously, the last one's not going to happen, but you get my point. It's just going to be kind of crazy. You never really know what's going to happen. Now, I think that at this point, for the Bills, again, you don't need a lot of help. You don't need a lot of stuff. figured out your interior offensive line, or at least partially you did. So I think at this point you can really start to kind of figure out, what do we need? And their running game was atrocious last year. Josh Allen should not be your best running back, so I'm going to go Breece Hall out of Iowa State. I think he definitely could be the best wide receiver, best running back in the draft. I do like Kenneth Walker a little bit better. Breece Hall is certainly a great running back in and of himself. And I could even see them going Isaiah Spiller here just because, CJ Spiller, Isaiah Spiller, it'd be, just for the memes. But I am not going to do that here. I think that they're going to go Breece Hall. All right, Falcons. What do you do if you are the Falcons? You've got some great prospects here, certainly. And I think that at this point, you got to keep, building up. You got to keep building through the trenches. You got to keep building up that defense. Christian Harris out of Alabama makes a lot of sense here. You got to get guys that are athletes. You got to get guys that are, just going to be flying all around the field. You lost Foyesade Olukun in free agency, and this will help fill that gap if you are the Falcons. Green Bay back here at 53. They have 2 first-round picks. And, this certainly seems like a Trey McBride pick for whatever reason. I don't know why. It just kind of feels like a Trey McBride pick. But instead, I'm going to go Daniel Falele out of Minnesota. I think that he certainly fits a need if you are the Packers. So I'm going to go with him here. Bucks. I don't really know what you do here if you're the Bucks. I genuinely have no clue. I mean, do you try and, do you move, do you go Trey McBride here? Do you go Leo Chenal? I do, what? I actually do know what I'm going to do. John Mechie out of Alabama. I think that, you need some more weapons if you're Tom Brady, and you can never have enough weapons if you're the Bucks because you want to get back to the Super Bowl. You don't know how much time Tom Brady's going to have left. This might be his last season. You never really know. So now you get to the 49ers making, I believe, their first pick of the draft here. So I'm going to go Daniel Parham out of Memphis. Makes the most sense here. If you are the 49ers, he fills a need. You got to help fill that gap of the offensive line, and I think you're probably going to go with Trey Lance as your starting quarterback, and you got to help protect him. Now, at number 62, the Chiefs. This is another tough one. Josh Pascal makes sense. He definitely fits a need here. Khalil Shakir makes sense here as well. Cole Strange makes sense here, even though I think Strange is probably more of a third-round pick. But for me, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go best player available here if you're the Chiefs. Travis Jones is a guy who's going to be a borderline first-round pick this year. He's fallen all the way to 62. And even though IDL is not necessarily your biggest need, I think that, again, at a certain point, you might just have to go best player available. And I think it makes sense at number 62. Bengals, what do you do at safety if you're the Bengals? So, not a ton of great prospects at this point. I think you're going to have to address that later on. So I think at this point, you're going to have to try your very best and replace your tight end that just left in free agency in CJ Uzomah. So Trey McBride's going to be the pick here. Might be a bit of a reach for Trey McBride. I think he is the best tight end in the draft, but I think he fits more as a third-round grade for me. The tight end class is not fantastic this year, but certainly out of everybody, I believe in Trey McBride the most, so I am going to go Trey McBride here. Broncos at number 64. John Pascal. Nope. Josh Pascal is going to be my pick here. Fits the biggest need for the Broncos. And I think, Bradley Chubb has a good chance of leaving in the draft. So that is going to be the end of the draft here. And it certainly has been fun. I had a great time with it. I think that, it's certainly not going to look like this when the draft comes. And if it is, then I really should have bet money on it. But nonetheless, that's my mock draft. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys agreed with, what you guys disagree with. Let me know if there's anybody that you thought I would have drafted that, I didn't have drafted here. Let me know if there's somebody that I drafted that you were like, what, dude? He might be listed at that point in this, in the simulator, but he's actually like a 5th-round draft pick or something that I just completely missed. So let me know in the comments section. Let me know on Twitter. Let me know on Facebook, wherever you can reach me. But nonetheless, thank you guys so much for watching. And, I'm going to watch this back when the draft happens, and I'm going to see how I did. And I'm going to get an F, and that's just how it's going to go. But nonetheless, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
Hey guys, me again. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the Lopes Goes Last podcast. It means the world to me that you decided to stick all the way to the end. That's super cool. So thank you again. And if you really, really like what you see, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, and share it with all your family and friends because, this is my passion project. This is what I love to do, and I really want the sucker to grow. And the only way that that can happen is through you guys, is if you guys can help me out. So again, if you like what you saw, please subscribe, like the video, share with all your friends and family. That's the only way this is going to grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.